Bomb Lazaron, the L-A-Z to the A-R-O-N-D here. How's it going, YouTube? It's my very first Neverwinter YouTube video, and I've been getting requests after requests after requests to make the DPS Arbiter build. So, without further ado, here comes the DPS Arbiter build. We're gonna get through this nice and quick for you guys, alright? Don't want this to be a long video. Protege's hood, any hood with 5% damage and undermountain, all DPS should be using that. Executioner's black attire. We've found out that this is hands down amazing for all damage dealers. Do 5% of the damage that you would have dealt when you attack a target from behind, and it does an AoE to all other targets in the area. Hands down the best. I stock wrappers, all my powers are ranged. Got the Alabaster set. Any of the new sets with decent base damage will do you fine. Gators of the Spy Guild, I prefer these over the 75% stamina one because I already have that on the shirt. And I don't use Boots of the Will because I don't use at wills all that much. So, give me the combat advantage. As you saw, I used the shirt, blue pants. These are actually items you can make when you hit level 70 in your different professions. I've noticed that these are the only pants that come with combat advantage on them, so why not give it a whirl? I think it's pretty good. Baphomet set, of course. Shadowstalker ring, you already know. I'm trying to get an ebonized ring that'll replace this for more ranged damage. Every single enchantment and utility is going to be dark, and offensive is all going to be radiant, of course. We're capped on stats. Defensive is going to be radiance as well, and I run one Tenebrous enchantment just to have that little extra damage, and yes, it'll do more damage than if you had a radiant there. I've got the new artifacts in play. Staff of Flowers is for mob fights. I prefer that over the decanter. Just my preference. All based off of my preference here, guys. You don't have to run this the way I run it. This is just kind of like a baseline, you know, to help you guys out. Because I've been having a lot of success with this. Wyvern Coated Knives. This is mainly for bosses. You know, that 12% extra damage for the whole group, including yourself. And obviously you have to have the Shard of Orcus to go with the Baphomet set. Also the increased damage by Lance of Faith modification, and the combat advantage along with crit severity for the modifications on there. Also power armor kits on all the pieces of gear, combat advantage armor kits on all of these pieces of gear. You already know what it is, brother. On the stat increases, go full intelligence and dexterity. Your intelligence is your magical damage boost, because we are magic damage dealers, brothers and sisters. And of course, we need the movement speed and the crit severity on the dex. Easy peasy. Powers. For mob fights and boss fights, I prefer Break the Spirit, Forge Masters, and the Javelin. I know what you guys are going to say. You could use Geese or Prophecy of Doom on boss fights. Well, honestly, most boss fights nowadays, with the exception of a few, have multiple mobs that show up, and sometimes you need to take them out. I prefer the Searing Javelin just for general crowd control. So, you're going to be using Forge Masters and Break the Spirit on the bosses anyways, and you'll be building up your Burning and Radiant stacks for those big hits on the bosses. So, you'll be fine on using the Javelin. Lance of Faith, of course, is very good, and Conflagrate, probably one of my favorite powers. I'll tell you why in a bit. I use the Hallowed Ground to help out my healer, sometimes here and there. Usually they don't need any help, but it's there just in case. You have to do what you have to do. And I prefer the Hammer of Fate for single target, Flame Strike for mob fights. Not a big fan of Celestial Prominence. I feel like it's too slow, and I tend to run with really fast players So that's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. So, in terms of class features, you don't want to waste any of your class features on these divinity related things. You're going to be fine on divinity. I'll explain to you shortly. Just go for the damage on the Doomsayer. Once you hit Break the Spirit, Doomsayer procs, bam, 20% more damage. 10% from Break the Spirit, 10% from Doomsayer. And then Divine Equilibrium. As your divinity goes down, and it's going to go down, you're going to get that damage increase, brother. Alright, so Piercing Javelin, hands down, second best feat in my opinion for the Cleric Arbiters. As soon as you see that Piercing Javelin, you already know. You line it up and you fire it off and you hit tons of mobs in a row. There you go. Between these two, I don't use either one of these two powers, whether it's Daunting Light or Divine Glow, so I just picked this one just for the sake of picking it. But yeah, if you're using either one of those two, obviously you go with that one. Inner Balance. Here's the reason why we don't have to use the divinity-related class features. When you build up your Radiant or Burning stacks, sometimes you gotta use them to get your divinity up, or we fizz out, as I like to call it. And we can't do damage anymore. Well, this one says, if your combat advantage and armor pen are equal, it gives you more. Obviously, that's not going to happen because the combat advantage is higher than armor pen. But if your crit strike and accuracy are equal on the Radiant Judgment, then you gain a lot of divinity back. So the plan is, you hit a Conflagrate, and you channel really quick. You gain a bunch. Why? Because my crit strike and accuracy, as you could see, are literally like within 40 stat of each other, which means I am taking full advantage of Inner Balance. So, very strong. You really don't need the divinity related class features. You could go full damage on those thanks to this amazing feat. I think this is our best feat, Inner Balance. Burning Patch, just because I use Flame Strike on the mobs and I don't use Celestial Prominence, so no critical stun needed. And then these two, I've had talks with other clerics and other people, and I really feel like both of these just don't really happen, or they're just negligible, honestly, guys. So don't worry about these two, really. I just went for Angel of Death just because, I mean, boom, it happens. So, campaigns, pretty self-explanatory. I don't opt to go for the damage to the particular creatures just because I feel like it's too situational to warrant using boons up for it. So instead, I go for overall damage, which is the power increases as you could see, combat advantage, obviously, and then of course the extra hit points for the Tenebrous enchantment. Also, gotta have that speed with the Marathon Runner, and of course, Companion Influence. It's strong if you build enough of it. And then action point gain, because, you know, we're struggling with them action points. You already know. And then crit severity, damage dealer, yep. It's a battle between Deathly Rage and Bloodlust. I prefer Bloodlust. It's up to you guys. I think most DPS are going to go with Deathly Rage, but I just prefer the Bloodlust, honestly. I debuff targets awareness, which if you're not at the combat advantage cap, or if anyone else isn't, then hey, I just increased everyone else's damage too. Look at that. It's like I'm a dual rate. I increase my buddy's damage and increase my own damage at the same time. You already know what it is. Guild Stronghold. Power bonus. Oops. Power bonus, of course. Hit points. Tenebrous enchantment. Hands down. Alright, so I prefer Zuna. I just like her. She's cool. She kicks butt. You know, who wouldn't want a pretty lady that kicks butt? You know? Obviously, you want the Bonding Runestones. And then I kept the Choke Chain of the Companion from when I got the campaigns. And then 2 Heroic of Companions for the combat advantage and for that armor pen, because I did need the armor pen. And all empowereds on all of these. You stack it up as much power as you can. And Potent Precision for that extra crit severity. Some people will say power. It's dependent on you. I like the crit severity, so yep. And Companion's bonus. Deep Crow, pretty meta. Raptors, pretty meta. I'm going for these two with the combat advantage because I have Zuna out. I do not run an augment, so I don't quite get as much combat advantage as normal. So, yeah, I gotta kind of compensate for that. Also, because I don't have an augment, I don't have as much hit points, so I'm getting a little bit of extra hit points from this energon right here. But to each their own. It's up to you guys how you want to run it. If you're running an augment, you could opt to go for more offensive stats here, not have to worry about this hit points or the defense here. You know, mounts, 10,000 power, self-explanatory. I don't have a Tensor's Disc or a Swarm because I was a Cleric last mod, so I was buffing my teams, so I still got my T-Rex. Once I can afford said Swarm or Tensor's Disc, I'll probably grab it for myself. But for now, I'll stick to helping everyone else, including myself. And of course, with mod 16 came the nerf of all nerfs to all of our wonderful mount insignia bonuses. So, what do? I just get as many mount insignia bonuses that can have dominance insignias as possible because dominance are like the best insignias. Power and companion influence, come on. But of course, Gladiator's Guile is probably the best one, honestly, which is kind of disappointing. But yeah, moving really fast is very important for us Arbiter Clerics because we're really slow and other DPS like to get to the battle before us and completely annihilate everything before we have a chance to even get there. So we need to get there as fast as we can. Warlord's Inspiration is in combination with the Zuna. Makes her do more damage on her Bloodbath ability. And Artificers actually, believe it or not, sometimes does come into play and sometimes works for my Break the Spirit. So guys, I didn't want this video to go too long, but this was my very first one. So hopefully this helped you guys out a little bit with the Arbiter for everyone that was asking questions. I would say for rotation's sake, when you're in mob fights, try and hit Break the Spirit to start and then build up a couple of burning stacks and try and get that javelin going before. And try and line up the javelin too, because lining up the javelin gives you just hands down the most DPS. It's all about lining up that javelin with the mob fights. And then for boss fights, pay attention to your divinity. Try and see if you can do your biggest hits when your divinity's halfway for that feat, the good old divine equilibrium, you know? Also, make sure you have your overload slots. Always. They're so important this mod, guys. Do not ignore your overload slots. Use them, please. I recommend the Corrupt Black Ice enchantment because, once again, guys, action point game is tough. So, also, best in slot, defensive slot, hands down for me, Thunderhead, because it makes Lindsay look absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, guys, my opinion, once again, I feel like the armor enchantments are negligible for DPS, honestly. Especially for clerics, because they don't really gain aggro that much. So, yeah. That's why I don't really wear like negation or bark shield or any of that baloney. So, I just go for the looks on that. And of course, Vorpal. We're a chunking class, us arbiters. So, we're going to try and chunk as much as we possibly can. And as you saw from a lot of this stuff, I haven't upgraded a lot of stuff, so there's a lot more improvements to be had. But yeah, this was just a baseline to help everyone out that's having problems with Arbiter. It's all about lining up your powers, getting to fights quick, and maintaining your divinity, your burning stacks, and your radiant stacks. You need to pay attention to all of those things. I honestly, my opinion, once again, feel like the Arbiter Cleric DPS is probably the most complex DPS in the game right now, just because of all those different things that you have to pay attention to. Also recommend using the horn, as you can see it down there. Good old doohickey because it's OP, and of course, Greater Stones of Hell. But yeah, guys, I hope I was able to help you guys out a little bit with the Arbiter Deeps. So Let me know what you guys thought, and I'll definitely be making more videos. So, peace.